Hi, I'm Kate from Beautiful Pie Shop, and we are going to sew some Juliet's playground moccasins, little leather moccasins. These are based on the Maggie's Booties pattern, but they are a separate pattern in my shop if you don't want to hack Maggie's pattern. So here are the pieces we're going to use. We've got soles. Make sure you cut a left and a right sole if your leather has a good side and a bad side. This one's a little scruffier on the other side. I got this leather at Hobby Lobby in a scrap pack, and I recommend that for the bottoms because the fancy leather is a lot more expensive. The scrap packs are really cheap. So I have 2 toe pieces, and these are the casing pieces. These are going to be the heel fringe. Upside down. Yep. And these will be the toe fringe. And there are a couple ways you could go about cutting the fringe. I have lines on the pattern. You can just cut right through the paper, but if you do that, I don't think you should cut every single one through the paper because it can move. I've done a lot of these and tried a lot of different ways. You can clip the paper on here, which will help, but I still wouldn't do every single one. So I like to do this one in the middle, and then I know how high I'm cutting it. And then these I cut in thirds. You could mark every single line on the back if you wanted to. I think that sounds tedious. So I wouldn't. I'll show you on the other one another way you can do it with the paper. Alright, so you can put this up here and then cut up to it. And I think this is a good way to do it. And I'll do the same thing on these. If you cut through the paper with these, I would cut through groups of 4. This. And then it's easy to just cut this in half. And then in half again. I'm going to do this the other way. Another way that you could do this is to use an X-Acto blade and just cut them down from there. With this pattern, you could also make a fringeless casing around the back, and that piece would look like this. You'd just cut it here And it would go in the same place like that. And there's also an option for a scalloped edge casing. It'll look like this. Okay, so the first step is to put the fringe or fringeless casing or scalloped edge casing on top of the heel casing piece and the toe fringe right in the middle of the toe like that. And then we're going to sew a 1/2 inch away from the edge and again an 1/8 inch away from the edge and backstitch at the front and back of each of those seams. We're going to do that on all 4 of these pieces. All right, I'm going to clip this together at the beginning here just to hold it together as I get it going in the machine. I have my stitch length set to 5 and I am going to be using some Walmart bag on top of my leather so that it feeds nicely through the machine. You can use a walking foot or a Teflon foot, but a Walmart bag is easy and you don't have to change anything on your machine. And it's very satisfying to rip off. I like to go ahead and just do all of the 1/2 inch seams first and then go back and do the 1/8 inch seams so that I'm not switching back and forth. All right, now we are ready to sew the casing, the heel casing and the toe piece onto the soles. So here I have my 2 soles and I'm going to put them down so that the side that I'm going to have facing the ground, the outside of my sole, is facing up. And the first thing also on is the casing. And there are markings on the pattern for the center of this casing piece, the center here and the center in the front and the center on the toe piece, but you can put this together without marking all those. If you do want to mark those, the best way to do it is to just kind of nick your leather here. I wouldn't cut into it. I wouldn't cut a slit into it, but just nick the edge of it. Okay, you can just fold this in half And then find the center of the sole. I'm going to do this one first. And put that in the center of the heel. And then clip it here. I usually don't clip the rest of this. I just bring it around here and sew it. But you can clip it. And okay, so that's all clipped. I'm going to bring this to my sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm just going to sew that on. All right, my heel piece is on, and I'm ready to sew the toe on. Now you can match the center here and the center marking on the sole piece if you would like to, but you don't really need to because all of the sizes overlap a 1/2 inch on each edge right here. And I'm just gonna check with my mat to make sure that my 1/2 inch is really a 1/2 inch, and it is. I'm gonna clip these sides first. Like this. And then I'm going to continue clipping these around and easing this in. Okay, and now I'm going to sew around here with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Awesome, now we need to trim the seam allowance around the sole. That'll make the toe look nice and pretty. And I'm going to use pinking shears for that, but you can just trim them with other scissors. Okay, now I'm going to thread the elastic through. I've already cut my elastic to the length that I want. And through facing. Pull this through here and put a clip on here just to make sure that I don't yank it through. Tie an overhand knot. Off. And there they are. Aren't they cute?